Hello and welcome to Buildings of Tomorrow. My name is John Lester, and in today's episode, we are talking about Project Haystack. And I'm really excited because I have two really special guests to talk about Project Haystack with us today. I'm joined by Gareth Johnson, who is the Chief Software Architect at J2 Innovations, and Scott Munch, the VP of Customer Experience at J2 Innovations. Gareth, Scott, thanks so much for joining us.
Our pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm really excited to talk about Project Haystack today, to talk about semantic tagging and all things Haystack itself. Before we do that, you're both here from J2 Innovations. Scott, I wanted to ask you, could you give us a quick introduction of who J2 Innovations are and what you do?
Sure, John. J2 Innovations is a software company, and we're on a journey to become the leading platform provider for smart buildings, smart equipment, and IoT. And we use our technology as a framework to help our customers come to market with new services, new products, and it's fully adaptable and can be integrated in a number of different ways. Our software creates value not only for those partners, but for facilities managers, system integrators, and end users alike, providing an intuitive user experience, intelligent data management, and simplified workflows. This enables improved lives, communities, and as we call places.
Lives, communities, and places, all good things to improve, definitely. So happy for that. Thank you so much. And I'm going to stick with you, Scott, because today we're talking about Project Haystack, as I mentioned at the start. Give us a quick idea. What is Project Haystack and what do we mean when we say that?
Yeah, sometimes it's easier to say what it's not. A lot of people think of it as a naming standard. And as an application engineer in previous roles, that was a big part of creating a project. But what we found in the industry is that we need to go beyond just naming standards when it came to data and to add meaning to the data point itself so it self declares. So sometimes we say Project Haystack is about getting data to self declare what it is, what meaning is in that piece of data, so that applications and workflows can automatically take advantage of that data. From a more technical term, we're a standardized semantic data model and web services. So we're also a protocol as well as a data standard.
Perfect. Hey, and thanks for adding the last sentence because I would have asked you the question directly. So you're ahead of the game already. I like it. And I guess then for those out there in the building automation, the building control industry who are working with data, working with analytics and other things, they'll understand or know and recognize some of those terms, semantic tagging, etc. So thanks so much for the introduction. Haystack is not new. So one of the things we wanted to talk a little bit about today was what is new, what's the latest, what's the greatest around the Haystack world. We're going to get there in a second, but before we do, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the values, because often when we think semantic tagging, it's just great. Some data scientist somewhere is using that to do something extremely clever. And once they've done their thing, then all the rest of us can get back to work. But I wanted to give yourself, Gareth, as an opportunity to start. But of course, Scott, feel free to jump in to give us a bit of an idea. What does this really enable? What do models and approaches like you have with Project Haystack enable people in the industry to achieve?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a term bandied around quite a lot, which I quite like, which is the democratization of building data, and really it's about having a level playing field for data in buildings. So innovation and applications can use that data to deliver significant value. So really, if you're going to ask me just going back to what is Haystack again, those open standards around building data, they give that level playing field. So if you're writing something for fault detection or analytics, improving energy efficiency in your building and that, you've got a common data format to work with so you can understand what is in that building, how it's functioning, getting back data from that building, and Haystack delivers that. I kind of view Haystack as a toolkit. It's because Haystack gets compared to a lot of things. What is Haystack? Just going back to that question again. And I always compare it. It's a bit of a Swiss Army knife, to be honest with you, and it differs from other building automation standards as well. I mean, you've got like there's quite a few different ontologies out there in the world now. We've got Brick Schema, which is just focused on the ontology piece. Yeah, it's very, very popular. Uses semantic web technology. And then we've got Haystack. Haystack's a number of things. It's got the ontology piece, okay, so we can understand what's in the building. We can understand the physical, logical, and virtual assets that are in the building. But it also delivers this extra value as well. It gives us some communication protocols, some REST APIs, so there is a thing called a Haystack device, essentially, that you can talk to in a common way and query it about what data it's got and what it's doing. There is a language, so you can actually put a query together and get that structured data back and do something with it. So it's a very, very powerful standard, and it's a multitude of technologies. And as well as around that standard as well, is not just the standard; it's the open source libraries and commercial offerings that are kind of built around that technology as well. And Haystack has a plethora of software libraries for working with Haystack data, everything from TypeScript, which I authored the TypeScript libraries for Project Haystack, and of course, other implementations such as Python and Phantom and Haxel and these other software frameworks that are kind of built around that technology. So all of that together gives you this marvelous enabler for kind of building these applications up. So it's not just about the open standard, it's about the community and all the tools around that as well.
Understand, and maybe give us a little bit of an insight. I'm going to ask you each. I'm going to pick a persona, let's call it, in the industry to understand how they can really leverage that, because as you described, this goes further than just putting context into data, and even goes further than leveling the playfield just from a data perspective. It gives you all these extra tools. So Gareth, for you first, system integrator. What could a system integrator do? What could they start to achieve? Leveraging some of the standards, the toolkit that comes around Haystack.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, it gives you flexibility in your tools that you're not just glued to one particular vendor. I'd say there's a system integrator that offers an enormous amount of value. The fact that you can, pick a number of tools now and tools further down the road, and if they're Haystack compatible, then you can start to easily use those systems with your existing portfolio and offer new services to your customers. So that's a significant thing. And the thing about kind of tagging and kind of the ontology piece and all of this is that sometimes that value is a little bit further down the road. If you just put in a BMS system and that's kind of it. If you've got everything tagged, then there may be tools further down the road that you're not using yet that you might want to start using and offer new services for. So it offers a lot of value for system integrators for really good and improved tools, not sticking to just one particular vendor. But it offers a lot of value further down the road, I think, as well, as there are new innovations that are Haystack compatible that can do all these extra things with your data as well.
Which is a really interesting value, because we often talk, and we've been talking for decades, where we're somehow in the building industry. The building industry moves slowly, but that's not really the case anymore, especially when we start to talk about cloud-based services and different data-based efficiency approaches. What you described there, I imagine, can really unlock some simplicity and unlock a little bit of scalability in the future, when things that we don't really know exist today might be here in 6 months, 1 year, 5 years' time.
Absolutely. And I think we certainly see that with cloud-enabled solutions, where you've got that remote connected system, and then you've got extra applications that can kind of sit on top to deliver more and more value. So one particular thing is we see a trend with now more and more is remote access. People expect remote access, and the reason they expect good remote access is because that's what we're used to at home with our IoT enabled devices. So whenever we have something in our IoT enabled devices, I think last week I got a robotic vacuum cleaner that is just hilarious. And no one ever told me robotic vacuum cleaners were that good. Actually, Scott was the first one to kind of think. So I'm behind the times on that one.
they were that entertaining, or that good at vacuuming? Here, I'm not sure which.
Oh, it just works. And the thing about it, it's got the sensors. It goes around. It does hoover up. It I can access it from anywhere. And I take that we take it for granted. I can be down the road and start vacuuming and kind of take credit. Oh, I've just vacuumed the house. It's wonderful. But I it's all of these tools and technologies that we have. We take it. We kind of expect it. And so if we've got a cloud-enabled service that gives us kind of remote access there, and then we've got like a common data format, for common REST APIs for talking to that data as well, then that enables a lot of extra innovation. It enables us to kind of use extra services further down the road, and even have like different business models of how we kind of provide access and provide those services as well. So Haystack, having that, I think, an independent data layer as Haystack, and having cloud-enabled services that can utilize all those different ontologies and tools and stuff offers an enormous amount of value. And I think that offers a lot of value to system integrators and build owners, facility managers alike.
Understand. Now, I said I was going to ask you both about a different persona, but you just gave us a huge amount of information, Gareth. Maybe for you, Scott, and I recognize the ridiculousness of this approach because I'm asking the non-software architect in the call, but you're both here from J2 Innovations, and obviously J2 Innovations, you're heavily involved, you're heavily committed to Project Haystack. It obviously gives you, as software architects, as data scientists, a lot of benefits as well.
It does indeed. It's kind of interesting when we've switched the roles a little bit. Typically, I talk about the value proposition for system integrators, but from a software company's perspective, the secret sauce, if you will, that we have leveraged is Project Haystack in our software. And what I mean by that is when the data says I'm a discharge air temperature sensor, as an example, we can programmatically in our software create a user graphic with a discharge air sensor icon next to it because I know with a very simple query using one of the different programming languages that Gareth just outlined that are part of the Project Haystack repository that I can auto-generate a ton of content. I can do a similar thing for navigation. I can do a similar thing for binding control logic. And these are all things that were huge labor intensive and error prone topics when I was programming bespoke solutions as an application engineer. And so J2 as a software company is effectively kind of living the dream and helping our partners automate things that were normally manual tasks. So it's kind of behind the scenes. It's kind of like the unsung hero of the Project Haystack value proposition, but it really is a big part of the solution that J2 is bringing to the market is once we've got this data that tells us what it is, and I can teach a developer one time to create an application to look for that and do something with it, then that saves thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people doing it over and over again, which is the way we're currently doing it in legacy systems. So that's kind of an interesting behind the scenes insight that I wanted to share from a software developer's perspective.
I was going to say from a non-software developer's perspective, which because we're switching roles here, why not continue? I think we talk about the tools and stuff. Just going back to the system integrator. If the tool's good enough, you don't really care too much about how the data's being modeled as kind of an end user and so forth. It does offer a huge amount of value, as Scott outlined, by using Haystack. But if the tools are right, you may not be even aware of how that data is being modeled. And that's, that again, that's something we use Haystack, but we try to create the tools in such a way that they're just easy for people to use. It's these extra secret sauce that kind of Scott talked about, which is the extra intelligence, where you've got more meaning in that data that you can deliver this extra value. And really, that's kind of the sweet spot, for using something like Haystack in your tooling.
Understand. And hey, let's say as well that secret sauce, but it's also something that we as an industry are going to need to be able to leverage more effectively in the future. We see the sustainability goals. We recognize we need to make the value of building automation and building management simpler and easier to deploy so that we can use it in more buildings. We know we have a skills challenge as an industry, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these things are supported by leveraging that secret sauce and making the tools and making the systems and making the different softwares so much faster to deploy, but also easier for those that may not have the 30 years of experience or the data science background to really understand the connections.
Let me jump on that a little bit, John, because one of our terms that we didn't define was data modeling. And you really are hitting a sweet spot where we can kind of tie in what we expect now from smart homes that just work, plug and play, and what we also talked about, which is democratization and getting into more buildings, not just big and complex smart buildings, but into all buildings. And if you take those two themes and you combine them, they're enabled by the concept of data models. And so I use the example of, let's say, a Nest thermostat. When I pull that out of the box and I power it up and I load the app and it walks me through a wizard, it has a data model already. I am a Nest thermostat. I have a space temperature, a cooling output, and a fan. And I'll, as Gareth said, join the cloud and share that information. There's no system integrator behind the scenes in that democratized environment. It's plug and play. But the payoff of what I get is exactly the same solution that we've come to expect in full building automation systems. I've got a graphic, I've got remote access to it, I'm seeing the real-time data, I'm able to pull up the historical data, I'm able to do overrides and schedules and things like that. How cool is that? And it's all being enabled by the fact that that software has a data model, and in the application engineer world, we might call that a template. And so maybe kind of lead you down that road of the next topic really is what does templating do and Project Zeto do along those lines?
I was going to, it was something I wanted to kind of chip in as an interesting subject because we're talking about smart home, which is very interesting. We talk like in the industry as a whole, we draw a lot of inspiration from IoT, ease of use, and smart home, but it also has a lot of problems. One of those problems is data silos. And that's a huge issue with, those smart home systems. Going back to my robotic vacuum cleaner, that has its own app and stuff. And I know there's frameworks to kind of get to glue them together and things like that. But, there's a lack of incentive for people to kind of share that data in these smart home manufacturers, I would argue. So, when we go back and talk about Haystack again as well, it's about breaking that down. So you haven't just got siloed data. It's about bringing all these tools and technologies together so they can talk together using a common data format. So I think that's something that is important to realize that data silos do still exist, and technologies like Haystack, one of the roles of Haystack is to break those barriers down. So, it makes it easier to write and deliver solutions for saving energy and saving the planet.
Amazing. And exactly what you discussed there is a challenge not just for smart homes, but also for smart buildings, for complex and developed systems, for systems designed to be open but still somehow end up closed. A challenge for the industry in general. As you say, we start to try and achieve some of the things you described before, that secret sauce for a system integrator, making decisions today, good decisions that can make it easier to deploy new technologies tomorrow. All things that can be enabled with this one. Gareth, Scott, time flies. And we're having a great conversation. And we've talked a lot now about Project Haystack. What I'd like to do is invite you back because we'd like to talk a little bit about what's new. Because something exciting happened recently, the Haystack Connect conference. So I'd like to invite you back for another conversation to continue the discussion on that, if that suits. But until then, hey, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your knowledge. It's been a pleasure.
Our pleasure too. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, both. And thanks to everyone out there who is listening to us as well. Remember to like, share, comment on this episode, subscribe to us wherever you have found this episode, and make sure that you keep your eye open because every 2 or 3 weeks, another great discussion comes along where we talk about a topic from the building and the infrastructure industry. And don't forget to look out for the next conversation together with Scott and Gareth. We're going to dive into some of the latest and greatest innovations around Project Haystack and some of the exciting things that happened at Haystack Connect just in recent weeks. So thanks very much, and we'll see you soon.